Thank you, Presiding Officer. Presiding Officer, every MSP recognises the economic impact the oil and gas sector has had for the wider economy since the 1970s. There's also clearly been an environmental impact. The sector, although North East based, has workers from across the country, in addition to companies in the supply chain. Therefore, for me, the debate on the oil and gas sector, and also the energy sector as a whole, is one for every MSP. I've got family who work in the sector and who previously worked in it. I've got friends who work in the sector. I've long since heard their concerns about the future of the sector. I also recognise that their views on renewable energy are not that positive, but that will not be the case for every worker in the oil and gas sector. Now, it's essential that the just transition happens. Now, Douglas Lumsden, in his contribution earlier, stated, and I quote, "Scotland needs a transition based on reality." And I very much agree with him on that point. The Cabinet Secretary has previously highlighted her own family background coming from Clydebank, and she's right to highlight the absolute carnage that was wrought on the communities along the banks of the Clyde when the shipbuilding industry was decimated by the Conservatives in the 1980s. Communities like mine are still struggling to fully deal with this. 44 years of population decline because industry was shut down, thousands of jobs lost, yards torn down, with retail units, fast food outlets, some offices and flats built in their place. These are cleaner facilities than shipyards and heavy engineering that once stood in place, but there was no concept of a just transition at that time. The enterprise zone that was installed delivered some successes, but very little of long-standing. And my community suffered as a consequence of a Conservative administration hell-bent on destroying working-class communities. And I don't want to see that replicated in the northeast of Scotland, where some of my family now live, as they were forced to get on their bike as per the demands of Norman Tebbit. The Energy Profits Levy was useful in the short term, but the fact that Conservative government, the past Conservative government, never replaced it with something more sustainable is yet another example of the utter chaos that was emblematic of their time in government. And as the SNP amendment states, and I quote, "and recognises that communities in Scotland are now paying the price of the UK Conservative administration's levy on the Scottish industry." Now, my only challenge to my own party with the amendment is that the Energy Profits Levy is the present-day equivalent to what the Tories do to Scotland any time that they are in power. The systematic demolition of industry and communities, or raking in the finances from the cash cow communities where it suits them, will always be fair game to the Conservatives. Now, Westminster, either Conservative or Labour, has failed to provide the industry with certainty or stability, directly opposed to supporting jobs and the just transition, safeguarding energy security and lowering bills. Now, fundamentally, the Energy Profits Levy should be scrapped and a proportionate tax regime established. Now, there was a time when oil and gas giants were making windfall profits in the UK, but that isn't such the case now. They are global companies, and the vast majority of their profits are made out with the UK. And all the windfall tax is now doing is costing jobs and driving a more rapid decline in the North Sea. As a nation, as energy-rich as Scotland, it really should be a disgrace, and every single MSP should be appalled at this, that so many of our citizens are so energy poor. Now, while Labour promised to cut the bills by £300, the reality is that bills have risen, and the blame lies squarely at Westminster's door. Key powers over industry, trade, industrial relations, employment law and energy are all in Labour's hands. And that's why it's so vital that we remain steadfastly behind the renewable energy revolution and maximise the investment and opportunities that this will bring. If Westminster repeats the same mistakes of the past and allows Scotland's immense natural resources to be mismanaged, then we will all risk the same fate. And sadly, I don't want other communities to suffer 44 years of decline.
Thank you, Ms McMillan. Thank you.